Today I'll be sharing out some of my favorite book recommendations for the summer, and I'm excited to share them, so let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so the first one I have here is called Midsummer Night by William Shakespeare. So you probably heard about this play, but in my opinion this one is the best one to read over the summer. Actually, that's debatable between Romeo and Juliet and Midsummer Night, but still, this one is amazing, and it definitely is like my favorite, I would say, out of all the Shakespeare plays. Is that true? I think so. Anyways, so this one is about four Athenians who run away to the forest, and there's this magical fairy named Puck who basically makes both of the boys fall in love with the same girl, and there's just a lot of magic involved, but at the end, basically, the two couples kind of like get together and marry, and Shakespeare just explores how people tend to fall in love with those who appear beautiful. So in a way, love is really superficial, but also how love can be really irrational and it can be totally blind. So there's a lot of magical imagery, which is why I love this play so much, but the characters are so quirky, and I mean the language is really entertaining as well, and I mean it's basically like a romantic fairy story, and it's all in the course of one night in the woods, and it's literally called Midsummer. So I mean I love this play. By the way, this summer I'm actually gonna go with a Midsummer Night's Dream summer themed aesthetic. The next book I'm going to be recommending is To the Lighthouse by Virginia Woolf. So if you've read Miss Dalloway, then I would recommend picking this book after, because this one is, well, this is the type of book that you don't want to know too much about before getting into, so I'm not going to say too much. The only thing I'm going to say is it basically centers on the Ramsay family and their summer retreat on the isle of Skye. But basically, it's set, I believe, in Scotland between 1910 and 1920. But it's about love, subjection, and forgiveness. That's all I'm going to say. So the next one is Romeo and Juliet, which is, again, one of Shakespeare's most well-known plays, but this one is, again, perfect for summer because it's set in Italy, and who doesn't want to have an Italian summer? I think you've heard the story, so I'm not going to, obviously say too much, but if you haven't read it yet, then summer is the perfect time to read it. It's set in Verona, Italy, so, in Verona there's pretty much this unbearably hot summer, and that's why I think it's so perfect. I think any book that essentially is set during Italy is perfect for the summer. The reason why Romeo and Juliet was actually set in Italy during this time was because there was a lot of influence from other Italian writers during the time that Shakespeare kind of took inspiration from, and also Italy was believed to be a country where romance was valued very highly. I thought that was interesting. But anyways, the next book is called A Room with a View by Edward Morgan. And this book is basically about a young woman who is in the restrained culture of Edwardian era in England, but it is set in Italy. Actually, it's set in Italy and England, but the story is both romance, but also it's a critique on English society at the beginning of the 20th century. And I would say the main theme of this novel is really the contrast between freedom and oppression, and it is expressed in many different ways. So it's very interesting because, obviously it's set during Italy, and as I mentioned, I think when you mix summer and Italy together, then you have the perfect book, in my opinion at least. But it's very interesting, and I would highly recommend reading this one for the summer. So I'm a huge Jane Austen fan, so I could not move into the list without mentioning two Jane Austen themed books. So the first one I have here is The Other Bennet Sister by Dennis Hatlow, and this one focuses on Mary Bennet. So if you've read Pride and Prejudice, then you'd know Mary Bennet was the lesser known sister of the book, and I think she was actually the most relatable one of the sisters. But anyways, so she's pretty much the bookish, ugly duckling of among her sisters, and she emerges from the shadows in this book, and she basically transforms into this desired woman. It takes on the question, what if Mary Bennet took a different path? And I think this one isn't related too much to summer, but the reason I'm recommending it is because I think there are some really beautifully written passages, and there's just so much vivid imagery in the book, and I just love how it's in her perspective. Okay, so the next one is Jane and the Year Without a Summer. So this one is by Francie Matthews, and this one is, we've reached May of 1816, so sadly we are coming to the end, and Jane Austen is suffering from a disease that will eventually kill her, but she doesn't know that yet. She goes to this like spa and she meets with a romantic interest from a previous book. So I think this one is part of a series. Now I didn't read the series, this is the only book I read from the series and this was the last one, but I think you don't have to read the other books because, you know, I didn't and I still understood it quite well, but like if you want to, then go ahead. A very good introduction to Jane Austen's biography, I would say. So the next novel is Tender as the Night, which was written by Fitzgerald, the same author that wrote The Great Gatsby. So this novel is a lot less known than The Great Gatsby, but basically he wrote this novel when he was in this like turbulent relationship with his wife, Zelda. But yeah, he was experiencing some like severe psychological problems. Anyways, so Dick and Nicole are a young couple vacationing in the south of France, and though they might appear as, you know, the perfect couple on the outside, the truth is their marriage is actually crumbling. So, I mean, I think this one is definitely sadder than the other novels I recommended. This one is beautifully written though, but it's so horribly sad. And I think this is Fitzgerald's final book, if I'm not mistaken, but I mean, it just doesn't feel complete. It doesn't feel like his final novel. Anyways, yeah, as I mentioned, if you want to try something sadder this summer, then I would recommend reading this one. This one pretty much details the journey that pretty much birthed the theory of evolution. So if you want to try something, I guess, related to science, Song of Achilles. So this one is basically about mythology. I think this one is very summer-like because it basically takes place in the ocean, but it's basically like a love story, and it's beautifully written. This one is more contemporary. I think I mentioned a lot of classics, but once again, if you want to read something more contemporary, then read that one. That's all I'm going to say for that novel. So the next one is actually different, you know, the final book on this list. It basically details the legendary voyage that birthed the theory of evolution, and it basically takes you inside the mind of Charles Darwin during his journey. And it's amazing, you know. It's basically his voyages around the Galapagos. It documents his day-to-day activities alongside his like natural history discoveries, and I think it just gives you like a new light on the father of evolution and I mean his journey across the sea. So I think the main reason why I think this one is perfect for summer is that like if you're in the beach and if you're like in the ocean, or if you like ocean themed books, because I certainly do, then this one definitely deals with that. And I mean, it mainly is about the theory of evolution through natural selection, so if like you're interested in that aspect of biology, then you can read this one as well. But I enjoyed this one because it just really puts you into the mind of Charles Darwin and his journey, and I love that. I just love books that are about journey. I love reading books about journey during the summer. So that's it. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the list, then thanks, I suppose. I don't know what to say. Anyways, so if you liked the video, then you can comment below what your favorite books to read in the summer are. I think my favorite one in this list is Midsummer Night's Dream, but I also really enjoyed the Song of Achilles. Anyways, so that's it. Thank you. See you next time. Bye.